Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cherrie Brady. I've been with Nu Skin for like 34 years. My husband and I have traveled the world with this business and opened lots of countries and have had great adventures with it. And I started this business as a young mom and single and trying to give my kids a life that they would enjoy, that we would all enjoy. And it took me on a path that not everybody will go down, but I have enjoyed it, and it has given us a life that most people just dream about. So I'm grateful for the adventure that I've been on with this company and the life that it's given us. What I'm going to do today is tell you 3 stories. And the first one happened about 45 years ago. And I was working at this place, and the owners for the company that I was working for were in town. And we had had several days of meetings. And there was also an event going on in town, and it was a balloon fest. And every morning at the crack of dawn, these balloons would go up in the air and just fill the sky. And I thought it was the most magnificent thing. I was just completely taken by these balloons. And as I watched them go up, I just started thinking, I would love to go up in one of those balloons. I would love to be up there. And one day we were there when they were coming down. And it was just, I don't know, I was just so taken by the whole thing, the sound of the air when they were filling up the balloons, and that they were up there high enough to be with the birds. And I just wanted to be up there. And it was the second day of meetings, and we had at work, and we had all gone out to dinner, and it was a late dinner. And we stayed there even later, and we were talking and visiting, and the subject of these balloons came up at about midnight. And I remember just saying, oh man, I'd really love to go up in one of those balloons. That would be the most amazing thing, and talking about it. And then it just kept coming up in this conversation. And about 1 in the morning, you do these dumb things when you're young. You stay up all night and party and carry on, even though you have to be at work at 8 o'clock the next morning. The owner, actually, that had come into town had been sitting there with us. And he came back to the table and he said, guess what? He said, I can get you guys on a balloon tomorrow morning. And I couldn't even believe it. I thought, what? We're going to go up on one of those balloons? I was so excited. And so we were just talking about just that, how fun it was going to be and everything. And it was about 2 o'clock, 2:30 when we left. And when we were leaving, he said, okay, so you guys have to be at this field, which was probably about 30 minutes from where we were at 4:45, and be ready to go. And it's like 2:30 now. We're just leaving, and we had a pretty intense week of meetings and stuff at work, and we were going to have to go straight from ballooning to work. So I knew I was going to have to be dressed and ready for work, and at this field at 4:45. So anyway, I went home, I got things ready. They said to wear warm clothes and all this other stuff, and had it all sitting by my bed, and laid down and went to sleep. And when the alarm went off at 4 o'clock, I'm like, I've only been asleep maybe an hour. And I was thinking, oh, do I want to get up? I'll just sleep for 15 more minutes. And that kept going on. And inside my head somewhere, I thought, these balloons are going up every day. I could go up tomorrow on these balloons. And so anyway, I actually slept through my alarm. And I firmly believe that anybody that sleeps through their alarm does it intentionally, even if they don't think they're doing it intentionally. So anyway, I slept through my alarm. And when I woke up for work, I couldn't believe that I had done that I'd made that choice. And I thought, oh, well, surely there'll be another chance I'll be able to go up tomorrow. So I went to work, and I thought, you know what? No one else would have made it either. They were just as tired as I was. And I got to work, and sure enough, everybody else had made it. And that's all they could talk about all day long was that they were up there when the sun came up, and they watched the sunrise, and there was birds. It was like flying. They just, and the sounds and everything, it was just, they couldn't stop talking about it all day, day long. They were talking about this amazing thing that they had done. And I just felt worse and worse and worse all day long. I just didn't want to hear it anymore. And I thought, I cannot even believe that I chose comfort over my dream. That I chose laying in bed over what I really, really wanted. Even, I shouldn't even have gone to bed. I should have just stayed up. But and I thought, you know what, maybe he can get me on the next day. Well, my boss actually tried to get me on the next day, but the wind came up and the balloons never went up. And that was 45 years ago, and I have never been up in a balloon. And every time I see balloons in the air, I think of the chance that I had, that I let it go. I missed the window because I chose what was comfortable. And it still bothers me. It bothered me forever that I did that. And I try and remember that whenever something comes up that it is uncomfortable for me. It's a challenge for me. I try not to tell myself there'll be another chance, because there isn't always another chance. Windows close, and you don't always get another chance to do what you want to do, to live your dream. And I feel like, we've got a window in New Skin right now that isn't going to be open forever. They just aren't. Windows don't stay open forever. And a lot of people are thinking, something else will come along. I'll work at it when this happens or when that happens. And lots of times that window never, ever comes around again. So the next story I want to tell you is, I just decided to tell you 3 stories this morning, was when our daughter Carmel was, I think she was 8, we got invited to go on a trail ride. And it was with some people from church, and I thought, a trail ride, that is the perfect time to teach my daughter to really trust her horse and to ride a horse, because it'll be so simple. So I had this horse that I had bought off of the track. So I'd only been working with him for a couple of months on the Pirelli method, the horse whispering method. And he was sort of trustable. I mean, he liked to run, he liked to bolt, but I figured we could do a trail ride. And we borrowed a horse from my brother for my daughter that he said, he's a pretty safe horse. I take him hunting and everything. So my daughter had never been on this horse. So anyway, she just ate. She's just little. And today, I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, we got up really early. We prepared for days, because we were going to spend the night up there, a couple of nights up there. It was an adventure. And so we loaded up the horses, went with all these other people up into the mountains, unloaded. We left in the dark. We started saddling just when the sun was coming up. And then we took off, and I thought, this is going to be fun. This is beautiful up here. And we started on this trail. At first it was really easy and it was fun. Everybody's laughing. It's a great day. Isn't it beautiful out here? And then the trail started getting harder and harder. And I thought, okay, so it'll be okay. I just won't let her know that this is a hard trail. She'll just think this is what a trail is. It was just really narrow and rocky, and there was trees on both sides, and sometimes there was, sharp cliffs on either side, and we just kept going, and I kept just saying, it's fine, this is what trail rides are like, and she was already starting to get a little scared. And then we came to this place, and I'm not kidding, this is actually what it was like. It was a cliff. It was a sheer cliff with a little trail that ran along the cliff. There was not room for 2 horses on this little trail that ran along this cliff. We had to go single file and really slow. And I looked at it and thought, what what in the, so what was he thinking telling us to come on this trail ride? And I could see some of the other adults in our group were going, we're going to do what? We're going to ride on that trail? And it was a long trail around this thing. And so I'm thinking, all right, I've got an 8-year-old on a horse that she's never been on before. I'm on a horse that I bought off the track a couple months ago. Are we gonna turn around, or what am I gonna do? And in my mind, I'm just really cussing out this guy who invited is thinking, when I get a hold of him, I am going to tell him exactly what I think of what he's told us to do, that we could do this easily. So I decide we're going to go. We're going to do it. We're going to go. We get on this little trail, and I'm not exaggerating that when you take a step, rocks would fall off this trail down, all the way down to the river at the bottom of this cliff. So there was constantly little rocks falling down off the cliff, and you could hear it was just silent. The adults were like, holy, are we going to do this? And my daughter's looking at me like, I can't do this. I can't go on this trail. And so I'm thinking, okay, so we're just gonna have to back up. I actually was scared, but wasn't very often scared on a horse. So I kept saying, it's gonna be fine. This is just what trail rides are like. We'll get through this. This is a hard time. So she's like there's tears coming out her eyes, and she's just hanging on to the horn. And that's what I told her, just hang on. Your horse wants to live through this, so it's gonna stay on this trail. We're gonna get through this. So we go around this thing. It seemed like it took an hour, but it probably took like 15 minutes. And then there's this little break, and we're all like, oh gosh, wow, that was hard. And we're all talking to each other, and Ed, he's the guy that took us all. He said, okay, come on, let's go. And we come around the corner, and there's some more sheer cliffs that we have to go through, another round of sheer cliffs. So we all lived through the first one, so we're thinking, okay, all right, we can get through this. And I can feel just my daughter, everything inside of her was like, oh, we got to do this again. So anyway, we this time actually, I had to get off my horse and kind of help her and I get around this one, because this was even narrower than the first one. And we get around this cliff and to this little clearing, and we all get back on, and we're all like, oh my gosh, I'm glad that's over. And we go just a little ways, and there is this ravine that we have to jump. Okay, so you can't go down and through it, you got to jump it. And just the whole time I'm thinking, what was this guy thinking? So anyway, we jumped it because the horses in front of us were jumping, so we jumped. So we're just going, it's fine, it's going to be okay, we'll get through this. So we jumped this ravine. We're kind of in thick trees now. And then we come out the other side of this little trail into this clearing. And it was like a fairy tale. It was like, I have never seen anything like it. It was acres and acres and acres of mint growing, and there were fields of flowers everywhere. It was green. There was this perfectly clear little creek running through the middle of it. There was wild animals everywhere. There was birds, there were deer, there were elk. It was like a fairy tale that we had gotten into. And so I remember talking to my daughter and saying, sometimes you got to go through the worst roads. You got to go on the worst roads to get to the most magnificent places. And we spent, a couple days in there. We camped in there. We had so much fun. We took different trails up into the mountains, and it was just, I've never been on a ride like that before in my life. And then on the way home, we had to go back, obviously the same way we came. But this time, no one was scared. It was like, okay, we've done this. We can do this. We can get back. the road wasn't any wider than it was when we went in. It was still narrow. The rocks were still falling off. It was still dangerous. But this time on the way out, everyone was talking and we were laughing about how wonderful it had been and everything that we had seen and done. And we had the confidence that we were going to be fine. We were going to get through this trail ride. And so it was, and I have a picture at the end. So on the way in there, I kept thinking, you know, when I get a hold of Ed, he's the guy that took us, I'm just going to cuss him out for taking us on this ride. I've got my 8-year-old daughter here, and this is such a dangerous adventure. And then I remember when we were loading, I couldn't say thank you enough for having taken us on that adventure, on that ride, and the challenges and everything that we went through. And he took a picture of me and my daughter, and this is it, just before we loaded. And I have this on our wall because, you know, one of the things that you learn from that is that confidence came from the courage to do it. So we didn't have the confidence to do it when we started. We just had to have the courage to do it. And then we got the confidence to do it. And I had noticed that very few things scare my daughter in her life. She's willing to take on just about any challenge and to take it on because she's had some experiences like this that things don't always start out great. You know, you have to take the hard road to get to the best places. It's the struggle that brings strength. And so we were just so grateful to have been on that journey and to have been able to do that. And I'm going to tell you one story. I know I'm a little over time, but I got to do this really quickly. Before Sean and I got together, he was living with a friend of his, and they were both doing the business together. They were sidelines. And so we got married and moved to Australia and started doing the business internationally. And this friend of his, we had mentioned several times, you should come with us, you should do it with us. And he chose to stay where he was at because it was just too big of a challenge to go into a different country and to try different things. And a couple of years ago, he came to visit us, and we were sitting in my office, and he was having all this trouble with his legs. His legs were hurting. And I do this emotion thing, and we were trying to figure out what was wrong with his legs. And I said, Scott, I think your legs hurt because you feel stuck, that you're not moving forward. I said, what's going on? And he said, you know, I can't believe I quit Nu Skin. He said, I still remember the day I quit. And it hurts so bad. It still makes me tear up when I quit because I never thought I would give it up. And he said, I always thought that I was doing the business and that it just wasn't working for me. And that had to be the company. It had to be something else that was going on. And he said, when I look back at it, he said, I was busy every single day, you know, going to meetings, learning about the product. I knew the compensation plan in and out. He said, I was doing all these things. He said, but when I look back on it, he said, I wasn't doing the business. He said, I wasn't doing the things that were uncomfortable for me. The things that I didn't want to do, I was not doing. And he said, I realize now that what I should have been doing was the things that were uncomfortable for me, the things that I didn't want to do, the things that scared me. And he said, I'd probably still be in the business. And he said, it just hurts. It hurts all the time, every day. He said he remembers the day he decided, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's not working for me. So anyway, from these stories, it's just that the hard things are the things that give you the greatest joy in life, are the things that take you where you want to go. And the hardest paths are the ones that lead to the most magnificent places. And that anytime you choose comfort over the challenge, you're making the wrong choice, because it's the challenge that brings the strength and the courage. So anyway, that's my lesson today. And I hope you can take something from these stories. Lots of times, all I can ever remember from calls is the stories. So I thought I'd just tell 3 stories. So anyway, I love you guys. Have a fantastic day.